All right, so it looks like someone sent us quite a bit of info on Metro Brands. They're really interested in their latest financials and strategy, especially for Q3 of fiscal year 2025.
Yeah, lots to unpack there.
For sure. So we're diving into all sorts of stuff, investor presentations, press releases, even financial statements, to try and figure out what's most important.
We'll look for those key takeaways, those aha moments, those things that might surprise you or raise questions about the company's future.
Okay, so how about we just jump right in? What did Metro's Q3 actually look like in terms of performance?
Well, their revenue growth for Q3 was a pretty solid 10% year over year, hitting 688 crore.
So that's a pretty good rebound from the first half of the fiscal year, right? Because their growth was a bit slower then.
Exactly. The holiday season in India definitely helped.
Makes sense. But did they do anything special to capitalize on that?
Well, their marketing campaigns, especially with the new celebrity endorsements, seem to have really clicked with consumers, especially for those higher ed brands.
Interesting. How about profitability? Any surprises there?
Actually, their EBITDA margin is strong. It's at 32.6%.
EBITDA.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
So a healthy 32.6%. Why do they think it's so strong this quarter?
Well, Metro's saying it's mostly due to better cost controls and some restructuring they did with their royalty payments for Fila.
Wait, Fila. They have Fila in their portfolio.
Yeah, they actually acquired the exclusive license for Fila in India back in 2022. So their profit after taxes, what's known as the PIAT margin, sits at 13.7% for the quarter. But there's a bit of a wrinkle there. They had a one-time tax charge of 25 crore.
What happened there?
It sounded like they were sorting out some tax balances related to that Fila business, basically reconciling things with the tax authorities based on income from prior years.
So like a one-time hiccup. Hopefully.
Let's hope. But Metro seems to be staying busy, beyond just the financials.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, they've been making some interesting new partnerships and launching new retail formats. Did you hear about the Foot Locker store they opened?
Foot Locker.
Really?
Wow. That's a big name in sportswear.
It is. It opened back in October of 2024. That's the first Foot Locker in India.
So does this mean they're trying to attract like a younger customer? Or maybe one that's more into like trends and that sort of thing?
Well, it could be part of it. It's definitely a bold move, and the early reports are saying it's performing pretty well. They also just launched their first new era kiosk.
So like the caps and apparel?
The whole thing. They got an agreement that gives them exclusive distribution rights for all new era products in India.
Wow, that's interesting. So it sounds like they're really pushing into this whole sports and athleisure market.
It does, doesn't it? And don't forget, they're not only relying on those big names like Fila and Foot Locker, I mean their own in-house brands like Metro, Mochi, Walkway, Da Vinci, and J. Fontini. Those generate something like 74% of the revenue from their multi-brand outlets.
That's a really good mix, though, isn't it? Having your own more established brands plus these big, exciting new partnerships.
Absolutely. But those partnerships do come with their own challenges, like that BIS situation.
Oh, right. The BIS, what exactly is that again?
The Bureau of Indian Standards. They've implemented stricter quality control standards on footwear imports.
And this is causing...
Well, supply chain disruptions. Mainly.
I see. Does this mainly affect Metro's partnerships?
It hits their sports and athleisure segment the hardest because a lot of those brands, like Fila, they rely on imported parts and materials and these new regulations. Well, they're creating some, bottlenecks, making it tougher to get things into India and probably driving up costs, too.
Makes sense. So even though that Foot Locker launch is exciting, this BIS thing is a bit of a cloud hanging over it all.
In a way, yeah, it definitely adds some uncertainty.
Metro's being cautious with expansion for now, though, which I think is smart.
How cautious are we talking?
They're only planning to open maybe 2 or 3 more Foot Locker stores in the next 6 to 9 months.
So they're basically waiting to see how this whole thing plays out before they, go all in.
Exactly. It's a wait-and-see approach. Okay, that sounds pretty reasonable. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about Metro's, I guess, longer-term strategy. What are some of their strengths and, how are they looking to keep this momentum going?
Well, they have a really strong pan-India presence. I mean, they've got a network of 895 stores, and those are spread across 203 cities. That's huge.
Yeah, no kidding. Talk about reach. And they seem to have a pretty good handle on their target market too, right?
Definitely. They offer a wide range of products at different price points, which allows them to cater to a bunch of different customer segments. And like we said, that mix of their own brands plus the international names helps them appeal to an even broader base.
One thing I've been curious about is their business model. It's described as asset light. What does that even mean?
Think of it like renting a storefront instead of owning it. Metro sources all their products from outside vendors. They
Hmm.
don't actually manufacture anything themselves.
So outsourcing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That helps keep costs down
Hmm.
and allows them to be more flexible. If they need to scale up or down or respond to sudden market changes, it's easier to do.
Ah, I see. So, of all the things we've talked about so far, is there anything that really stands out to you?
I think their loyalty program is really interesting. They say they have the highest points credit in the whole industry, which is a big draw for repeat customers.
So, not just rewarding loyalty, but actually encouraging it.
Exactly. And they've been digitizing the program too. That way
Yeah.
they can gather more data on customer preferences.
Interesting. So, they're not just giving out points, they're learning more about what their customers want.
Right. And then they can use that data to fine-tune their products and their marketing campaigns.
So, looking ahead, what's Metro's vision for the future? What are they aiming for?
They're looking to open 225 new stores, not including Fila, by fiscal year 2026.
That's a lot of stores. So, are they putting all their eggs in that brick and mortar basket, or is e commerce part of the plan too?
Oh, absolutely. E-commerce is key for them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you even compete with the giants in that space? I mean, Amazon, Flipkart, those kinds of companies.
Well, they're really focusing on strengthening those omni-channel capabilities. That means making the online and offline experiences as seamless as possible.
So customers can shop however they want.
Right. And they've also mentioned they're open to inorganic growth opportunities,
Meaning?
mergers and acquisitions.
Oh, wow. So they might partner up to boost their market presence?
It's on the table.
Hmm.
But they've made it clear that any deal would need to fit their targets for returns, operational scale, and diversification. They're not just looking for any deal. They're being very selective.
Smart. I've got to say, their commitment to sustainability really stood out to me too. It's not every company that prioritizes those values.
For sure. It seems like they're genuinely trying to make a positive impact, not just, doing it for good PR.
What sorts of initiatives caught your eye?
Their footwear recycling program is pretty cool. Their goal is to recycle a pair of shoes for every pair they sell.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It is. And they're making progress. They've already processed over 7 million pairs of old shoes in just the first 9 months of this fiscal year.
Really? That's incredible. What else are they doing?
Lots of stuff. They're supporting education in underprivileged communities, offering job training, even working to improve the welfare of cobblers.
That's interesting. The cobblers, you don't really think about how crucial they are to the whole footwear ecosystem.
Right. It's a holistic approach. It's not just about the environment, but creating a positive social impact as well.
And they're getting recognized for it too, right?
Oh yeah, they've won tons of awards for both retail excellence and ESG performance.
Niches.
Environmental, social, and governance. So it's not just talk. They're walking the walk.
So looking at the big picture here, strong financials, those strategic partnerships, sustainability initiatives, where does all this leave Metro?
Overall, I think they're navigating this whole retail landscape pretty darn well.
Mhm.
Q3 was really positive, and even though their long-term strategy is ambitious, it feels doable to me.
Definitely a company worth watching.
Agreed.
One thing that really struck me was their approach to technology. It seems like they're really ahead of the curve there.
It's not just e-commerce either. They're using it for things like supply chain management and getting those customer insights we talked about.
Right, right. Yeah, that's something I'd love to dig into a bit more. How they're using technology to run things more smoothly and create a better customer experience.
Definitely. It's a real opportunity for them to stand out.
We should explore that more. But first, I think we need to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into Metro Brands. It's pretty amazing how they've kept up with the times. They haven't let themselves fall behind.
It's true. Especially with all this technology stuff, they seem to get it.
They're not just dipping their toes in either. It feels like they're going all in with things like data analytics and machine learning.
Yeah, they're using that data for everything, from managing inventory to targeting their marketing even more effectively.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Even choosing locations for their new stores. It sounds like they're using data to figure out where to open up shop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not random. They're looking at things like demographics, market trends, even foot traffic patterns. Makes you wonder how they ever did this stuff before.
Right. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of expansion. And probably reduces their risk, too.
Speaking of risk, though, we should probably talk about those BIS standards again.
Yeah, that whole thing. It feels like a bit of a wild card. Nobody really knows what's going to happen.
It definitely throws a wrench in the works, especially for businesses that rely on imported goods. Metro seems to be handling it okay for now, but they're going to have to keep a close eye on it.
It just goes to show that even the most successful companies can be sideswiped by things they can't control.
You got to be able to adapt.
And be resilient, which is where good leadership comes in, right? A clear vision for the future. That's where Metro seems to have an advantage.
Absolutely. Their management team has tons of experience. They've been through ups and downs before, and they always seem to come out on top.
They've definitely had to weather some storms. I mean, they've made some big decisions, but it never feels reckless, you know?
They're strategic about it, thoughtful. They weigh their options.
And their commitment to sustainability isn't just some trend they're chasing. It feels like it's baked into their DNA.
Yeah, it's not just a marketing ploy. They're in it for the long haul. And consumers are picking up on that. People want to support businesses that share their values.
Speaking of which, I was really impressed by their support of cobblers. It's not something you see every day.
It shows they're thinking about the big picture. It's not just about profits. It's about the entire ecosystem.
We've talked a lot about their strategy and sustainability. What about the actual numbers, though? Anything jump out at you?
Their revenue per square foot is something to watch. It's been climbing steadily over the years.
So they're making the most of their retail space.
Basically, yeah. Another thing is their repeat sales from their loyalty program members. That tells me they're building real relationships with their customers, not just one-off transactions.
That's huge for any business, building that loyalty.
And they're consistent with their dividends, too.
Dividend.
Yeah, payments to shareholders. They've been paying them consistently since 2000. And the ratio keeps going up.
So they're profitable and sharing the wealth.
It makes investors happy, which is never a bad thing.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Financials, partnerships, sustainability, even their key metrics.
They're firing on all cylinders.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious. If you had to pick one thing that makes Metro Brands special, what would it be?
That's tough. I think it's their ability to balance tradition with innovation. They've been around forever, but they're not stuck in the past. They're embracing new ideas and keeping up with the times.
It's like they're a startup with decades of experience.
Exactly. They're always looking for ways to be better.
That's what sets them apart from companies that just rest on their laurels.
Complacency is the kiss of death.
For sure. It's been great talking through all this with you. It's given me a lot to think about.
Likewise, I always learn something new from these deep dives.
Hopefully our listener feels the same way.
If they're looking for a company that's doing things right, Metro Brands is worth a closer look.
So where should they go to learn more? Any suggestions?
Their investor presentations are a great place to start. Lots of good info there.
And their website's pretty comprehensive, too.
Don't forget social media. They're pretty active on Instagram and Facebook, always posting updates and engaging with customers.
For the financially minded, they also have their earnings reports and those earnings calls.
Lots of ways to learn more.
It's been a really fascinating deep dive.
I've enjoyed it.
And that's it for today, folks. We'll be back soon with another deep dive and another interesting company. Until then, keep those questions coming.
You know what's interesting to me? It's that they've managed to hold on to that startup energy. Even after all this time, over 65 years in the business.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
They're not just sitting back and, coasting. They're still pushing the boundaries.
And it's not just about technology either. There's this real sense of purpose.
Mm.
I mean, they seem committed to doing things the right way. It's not just about making a quick buck, right? It's about building something that lasts, something sustainable, something that benefits everybody.
Their employees, their customers,
Right.
the communities they work in.
Exactly. And that's what really connects with consumers these days.
People want to support companies that share their values.
Sure.
And Metro is doing a good job of showing those values. They're very open about their sustainability efforts, their social responsibility work, their commitment to ethical sourcing. It's all right there.
They're not trying to hide anything,
Yeah.
and they're upfront about the challenges.
It's not all sunshine and roses.
Right. But they're working on it. They're looking for solutions.
It feels genuine.
Yeah.
They're not pretending to be perfect.
They're on a journey.
And they're inviting everyone along for the ride.
Makes you want to root for them, right?
Definitely. So if someone's listening to this and they want to learn more about Metro Brands, where would you point them?
Their investor presentations are a good place to start. They lay everything out pretty clearly.
Your website's pretty good, too. Lots of information there.
And their social media is worth checking out. They're active on Instagram, Facebook, all that. You can really get a feel for their company culture.
See what they're all about.
If you're into the numbers, their earnings reports and calls are super detailed, too.
So yeah, there's no shortage of resources.
If you're curious, there's plenty to explore.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
It really has. I always enjoy learning about companies like this.
Ones that are doing things differently.
It's inspiring.
Well, that's it for this deep dive. We hope you found it informative.
Thanks for joining us.
Remember, knowledge is power.
The more you know
The better decisions you can make.
about everything.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive, another fascinating company, and more insights you won't want to miss. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions. Thanks for listening.